I'm Caitlin Coombs from Energeticcity.ca, and welcome to Council Corner, powered by the City of Fort St. John. Today we are talking to Councillor Sarah MacDougall to get the latest updates happening in the city. Councillor, how are you doing today?
I am great, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you. So to start us off, Council has approved a tender for work on the 2025 trail lighting project.
Yes.
What's the project and what specifically is being considered in the scope of it?
Okay, well, that's a great question. I'm really excited about this project. So as you know, we have lots of trails in and around the city of Fort St. John, but something that we can hear consistently from our residents is that they want more lighting on the trail, whether that's because they're out there, on their own, maybe with their dogs in the evenings or winter school walking. They want to see safe trails that they can actually see if it's icy or, maybe there's animals around. So the city has applied for a grant, so that's the BC Transportation Infrastructure Grant, and was successful in getting that. And so they're going to use that money along with some funds from our Peace River Agreement to put trail lighting in a few areas that we don't currently have it. So that would be on 96th Street between 93rd and 99th Ave, on 86th Street, and as well as a portion of Northern Lights Drive.
Okay. What's the total cost of the tender?
So that is just over $550,000, and it has been awarded to Northern Legendary Construction.
All right. And when will the work begin? How long will the project take? Kind of what's the timeline on it now that it's been approved for tender?
So it's been approved, so it should be getting underway anytime now.
All right, wonderful. And is there any estimate on how long it'll take, or will that they'll have to get into it and see?
It'll kind of be a wait and see, but we're hoping that it is done this season. And one other thing I want to point out is that it was under budget. So once you add in the cost as well as the engineering costs, we were almost $160,000 under budget, which is just fantastic.
I always like when things are under budget.
Absolutely.
Another big project that's coming up. The city is currently starting the process for, I've heard it be described as once in a lifetime project, the replacement of the 106th Street water reservoir. What can you tell us for some background about what led up to this project being on the table?
Okay, so over on 106, we do have our big water reservoir station, but it has just reached end of life. I mean, staff were fantastic. They went into it and they looked, is there something we can do, repairs that we can just extend this life? But we've really done all that we can, and just cost efficiency, it doesn't make sense to continue to do that. And so the great thing is that in that same footprint, we have more land, so we are able to put another reservoir right there to hopefully limit any disruptions of service and get a new reservoir on the go.
Wonderful. And what makes the process and the project so complicated, and where's the city with it so far?
Okay, so because this is, as you mentioned, kind of like a once in a lifetime project, you probably wouldn't see a community do this more than every 30 or even 50 years. So that does make it unique. It's also a very unique structure. We have a big bolted steel reservoir, some significant underground infrastructure. And as I mentioned, we can't have our residents without water. So there has to be really seamless or no disruptions in service delivery as we get a new reservoir on. So what we've done so far is we have gotten Chandos Construction about $14,000 contract to start a design. So they sit with us and we talk about designs. We talk about things like risk mitigation. What could go wrong and how would we prevent that from going wrong? What are the cost estimates and what kind of scheduling or timeline would we be looking at?
Okay. And what are the next steps for the project? What's the timeline over? I know you're not going to magic it overnight. So what's the long-term look at it?
So what we're doing now is we're going to get that design back. If that is approved, then our hope is actually to get started on this fall of 2025 with a scheduled completion of sometime in 2026.
Okay, wonderful. And there were a couple of presentations during this week's Committee of the Whole meeting as well on bylaws.
Yes.
So let's talk about the revitalization tax exemption bylaw. Why was the bylaw brought before council?
So this was a really interesting one. So the revitalization tax exemption bylaw was brought because we are looking at getting some increased development in our downtown core. We have a few vacant lots. One example of that is that green space at 100th Ave and 100th Street. So we're looking at what can we do to incentivize multi-use development on lots such as that one. And so this bylaw was brought before us as kind of an idea, kind of an incentive out of our downtown action plan to incentivize development.
Okay. And what led to the conclusion that a bylaw might be necessary for this project for the city?
So when the city was looking for those expression of interest, we hired Colliers to say, how can we attract a developer? And so they looked at what goes on across the province, what are some great ideas to attract this type of development, and they came back to us with this idea for the bylaw. This is something that's done in other areas and has proven successful elsewhere, so we're hopeful that it will also be successful at that 100th and 100th Street for us.
Okay. And there was some discussion on this during the meeting, so I'll just touch on that.
Yeah.
The presentation, of course, focused on that 100th and 100th plot. Could the bylaw be adjusted, amended, etc., in the future to include other similar lots within the city?
Absolutely. We're considering this bylaw kind of a pilot project. So if it's successful, we would absolutely look at extending it to other downtown locations or just other areas where we want to see infill development happening. Staff will monitor the progress of this, how it goes, and then make any recommendations to council going forward.
Wonderful. We'll touch on the other bylaw, which was the Community Services Fees and Charges Cost Recovery bylaw.
Mouthful.
It's long. Tell us more about that. Kind of what is it? Why did it come about? Why, basically.
Okay. So this is the bylaw that really looks at the rates that we charge for our recreational facilities. We know that recreational facilities are just so vital to a community, whether it be the individual health and wellness of those using it, or whether it be the fact that having good recreation amenities attracts new residents, attracts professionals, etc., to our community. And so it really benefits the community as a whole. Mm-hmm. And so with that, we follow something called the benefits-based approach. And that just means that whoever benefits from the use pays for the use. Okay. So that might be the user themselves, but that also is the residents at large in that we subsidize recreational facilities from tax dollars. So when it comes to looking at a cost that we would charge users, we kind of aim for a 25% recovery rate. So that would mean 75% of the rate of operating a facility would be subsidized by taxpayers. And so to get to that, we do look at user fees, but we want to look at other things. So that could be things like naming rights, mm-hmm. that could be advertising, and of course, increased usage. The more people using it, the more folks are paying for it, the easier it is to recover that 25% rate that we want to aim for.
Okay. Getting that monetary coverage instead of just raising the prices for the users, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. I know creating a bylaw is a lengthy and long process. When would this come into effect, and what would the long-term reality be?
Okay, great question. Because we have one already in place, and that expires on August 31st of 2025. So this new one would go for September 1st. Okay. But interestingly, this time, the last one only covered 1 year, but we're actually looking at a 5-year outlook. We've heard from user groups that they want to know how they can plan, whether it's their fees for their users or whatnot into the future. So if we look at 5 years, we can actually give them better stability looking forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And why was a bylaw like this rather than 1 year necessary? You've kind of covered it a little bit, but why do you have to kind of ramp it up slowly instead of just switching them over?
Right. So when we're looking at a bylaw like this, we always want to be completely transparent with our residents, with our taxpayers. So this kind of provides a great framework for them to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. When we're looking at 5 years, we can kind of have a small stepped phased approach in increased fees. So for example, our youth rates right now being at $24, if council adopts it as presented, or one of the options that's presented, over 5 years we would get up to say $37.50 an hour. Mm-hmm. So it's not a great jump in 1 year. It's kind of that phased approach so that folks can plan for it. Also, I mean, the cost of everything is going up for all of us. And just we are seeing increased costs in operating our facilities and maintaining our facilities. And so we need to prepare for that going forward, because although we absolutely support subsidizing some amounts of recreation because of that benefit to the community at large, we also want to ensure that we are being fair and that users are paying a fair portion as well.
All right, that's a wonderful way to look at it. Thank you very much for your time, Councillor.
Thank you so much.
All right, this has been Council Corner, powered by the City of Fort St. John. My name is Caitlin Coombs from Energeticcity.ca. We'll see you next time.